Board of Appeals meeting to order. If you'd all please stand and say the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Okay. Would you please do a roll call?
Charles Peavy?
Here.
John Proctor?
Here?
Rich Murphy, absent excused. Sharon Peeler?
Here.
Marie Pedro? Here. Eric Treaster?
Here.
And we have Mike Cherry, interim CEO, and Julia Hodge, land director.
Okay. Marie's the only alternate we have to appoint as a voting member. Okay, so Marie, you're a voting member for tonight's public and regular meetings. Before we go into the public hearings and applications, we've invited Juliet Hodge, which is our Director of Planning and Development here tonight, to discuss some of the some of the legality of passing a zoning variance having to do with setbacks. Juliet, if you please.
And I'll go over that other document that I.
This beautiful,
that relates
beautifully
to-
written law
No,
speak
wrong
here.
one.
That goes, that pertains to the Geer case too. So this is I know it looks like a lot, but it's, you can read it afterwards at your leisure. I tried to simplify as much as I could. But basically, it's talking about what is a non-conformity, how do they occur, what are the exceptions, that kind of thing, what are the rules about them in zoning? And then how variances are applied to get rid of a nonconformity or to provide relief from a zoning regulation. So it's kind of a mixture of things. So basically what we are, and this is sort of dangerous to talk about because you do have an application in a public hearing that this is gonna come up, so I'm gonna try to keep it as general as possible. But there are circumstances in zoning where nonconformities arise because there's been a change in regulations, or a lot might have been created before zoning ever existed, a long time ago. And when the zoning commission applies certain zoning regulations to that parcel, they don't really fit. It might be you have a tiny lot, but you have huge setbacks, things like that. So it happens. But the one thing I did want to emphasize, and I think people get confused about it, when we talk about something being grandfathered, it's a non-conforming use, there's certain things to remember. That use or structure has to be legally permitted, legally existing, meaning it had to have been there, via a permit or some other legal method. It can't just, there are cases where people just subdivided land via deeds. That doesn't count, that's not a legally existing lot. So it has to be legally existing to be grandfathered. A use can be grandfathered, a structure can be grandfathered, but a setback cannot be grandfathered. The only time a setback can be grandfathered, so to speak, is if it's a lot that was created via a subdivision after the enactment of subdivision law, subdivision regulations, and that lot is still vacant. Then if you build on it, the old setbacks can apply, even though they may have changed. From that point on, once that shovel gets in the ground, the foundation is in place, anything that happens after that has to abide by the current regulations. The other interesting part of it is if that lot wasn't created via subdivision after subdivision law came into being, and there's plenty of those around, they aren't offered that same protection. No matter what, from the get-go, they have to apply, the current setbacks apply. And every time they are amended, they apply. So that's something I know that some people get confused about. So you don't need a variance to maintain a nonconformity. If you have a legally existing nonconforming use or structure, lot, you know, you can keep it, it goes to the land, that's fine, you don't need a variance to keep it, you just need a variance to, you know, if you want to expand that use or that structure. And there's different case law on horizontal versus vertical expansions. I'm not gonna try to get into that because I'm not sure where the law absolutely stands on it. It really has to do more with how your regulations are written, whether or not you can expand vertically. But it's very clear that you cannot expand horizontally if you have a non-conforming situation with respect to setbacks in particular. Then, that's another thing, I go into the powers of the ZBA versus planning and zoning, and I think this is important too. So the ZBA, there's always this sort of battle. Back in the day, planning and zoning commissions granted waivers, which essentially is the power of a ZBA. And so the McKenzie law that came in, or case that happened in 2015, I think it was, eliminated that ability. So planning and zoning commissions cannot waive a regulation. In other words, they can't grant relief from a regulation on a case-by-case basis, not allowed. Similarly, the ZBA can't do the same thing. So you can't just go in and blanket grant variances along a street, let's say, well, everybody's in the same situation, we're gonna grant you all setback relief. You can't do that because that's effectively changing a setback requirement for an area. And that's a power that's only allowed or given to planning and zoning. So you both have to stay in your swim lanes, in other words. So you can only give a variance under, you know, very limited circumstances if the proof of a hardship is provided, and planning and zoning can't just say, oh, you don't have to worry about that particular regulation in this case. So you both have to abide by that rule. Hardships are tricky, and basically there's almost no circumstance where a hardship is warranted. I mean, really honestly, almost nothing. If you have, there's one situation that comes up a lot, if you had a subdivision, let's say, created, I don't know, in the 40s or 50s, and all of the lots happen to be accessed off of a private road or some right-of-way, it's not a town road, and your regulation states all lots have to be accessed by a town road. Those people would have to come to the zoning board of appeals, but you would have to give them that variance. You have to, because if you don't, then you're basically eliminating any use of their property. If they can't get there, they can't use it for anything. So that's a valid reason to give a hardship. And you might have sometimes circumstances where, say, I don't know, one parcel had a, I don't know, giant lake in their front yard, or, you know, something weird like that, and the only, or in their backyard, and the only place that they could fit a house would be right up in front in their setbacks. If that lot existed, then that, you could grant that hardship, because it's unique to that parcel. So the test is it has to be something about that parcel, and only that parcel, that is unique. It's weird, and it's, if you had to apply these setbacks, they wouldn't be able to do anything on that parcel, anything on the parcel. If they have a use already on the parcel, if they have a house and a garage and a whatever, then they aren't, no matter what, they're not gonna be denied reasonable use of their property. They already have it. And that's a test that you have to pass every time you grant a variance. That's what makes it almost impossible to do so. Because I challenge you to come up with any scenario, you know, whether somebody's being denied reasonable use of their property. So I gave you a whole bunch of scenarios of what doesn't count as a hardship. So if somebody wants a bigger house, just because they do, that doesn't count. If building the addition would raise the value of the house, doesn't count. If they want to bring it up to building code, doesn't count, although we almost always allow that anyway. If it's just, oh, it's just a little variance, it's only a couple feet here, you know, it's not a big deal, nobody's going to object, doesn't count. So there's, and I gave you about 12 examples of that and some case law to back it up. All of that said, none of that matters until, you know, if you did happen to grant a variance with no basis, you know, no hardship, nothing's gonna happen to you, no giant stick's gonna come down from the sky and you know, nothing's gonna happen unless somebody challenges it. And if you did go to court, you would absolutely lose. 100% guaranteed you would lose if you haven't, you know, shown a valid hardship. The other thing to remember for the ZBA is that at some point you have to state clearly, for the record, what that hardship is. So after you get done with the public hearing, you listen to that applicant prove his hardship, and you ask staff questions and attorneys questions or whatever, and you get all of your information. When you're deliberating, somewhere during that deliberation, you're gonna have to agree as a group what the hardship is, and say it out loud. Because in your motion, it has to be a statement of your collective, you know, thoughts on what the, or decision on what the hardship is. So it can't be like, you make a motion and you say, oh, I think it's not that big of a deal, we should grant it, and he's like, yeah, I agree with you, and yeah, I mean, his lot is small. And then you all vote and say, yes, that didn't count. That was not a collective statement of the reasons to approve or deny an application. Again,
People are just trying to achieve reasonable use of their property that primarily built before zoning regulations.
right,
So based on state statute, current zoning laws, anybody that has a house that's built before zoning was enacted in this community, it's too bad. That's what you're saying. And I disagree with that statement. And I understand how it plays out legally, and I think that's what she's speaking to, and I would like to speak to that. The state statute also says by majority, this board can approve a variation, so long as it's approved by a majority.
after they prove a hardship, and you have to state those reasons.
Only
That's
if
what
it's,
the law says.
only if it's challenged by somebody else in the community that says, oh, I disagree with, you know, adding a 12-foot addition to my carport. I'm gonna sue the town because I don't like his carport being added.
No, the law states that you do have to find a valid hardship, that there has to be a hardship for you to grant the variance. That's what the law says.
95% of the things that come in front of this board
Mhm.
are setback issues, correct, gentlemen, ladies?
Right,
Right?
and so the correct
And we
method,
typically, if the improvement or the addition is reasonable, we typically have approved them. That has been the history of that.
Right.
Because people are only trying to improve their property, their home, the community in some way. That's all they're trying to achieve. But you're saying state statute and local zoning says too bad?
Absolutely.
Why are we taking $560
finish.
from an applicant then, when
Let
we
me
know
finish.
that they cannot prove their case?
Right, good point, and we try to discourage all applicants from doing that. But the proper remedy for what you're saying doesn't lie with you. You can't fix it, but the Planning and Zoning
But-
Commission can, and that's who's allowed to fix it. So if you have a case where everybody in the neighborhood's gonna run into this same problem, you change the zoning regulation to give an exemption for subdivisions created before subdivision regulations, or legally existing subdivisions created after subdivision regulations that happen to be small, and we've now changed the zoning and the setbacks are utterly ridiculous. Then you write a regulation, and later on, you'll see an example of a regulation to consider. But that's the proper way to do it. Like I said, nobody's gonna come down and strike you dead.
No,
It happens all the time. What I'm here to tell you, it's my
I-
job as staff to tell you is that that is not allowed. It is
Correct.
against the statute. But,
The statute also says by majority of this board,
no,
We-
point to that statute. It doesn't say that. It says you, after you find that there's a hardship.
we have hundreds of approvals in the history of this board based on our past approvals, literally.
Right.
And you know this.
I do
so-
know that, but just because something's done wrong doesn't mean that.
No, the statutes,
legal.
the statutes and the zoning are wrong. People are just trying to improve their community, their home, their property. That's all they're trying to do.
Yeah.
In the state statutes, in the local zoning say, no, you are not allowed to improve your house or your property. That is the travesty. That is wrong.
Absolutely.
That is.
I could not agree more.
And
the remedy to that is to change your
and I will
regulations.
always vote yes for somebody who wants to improve this community, so long as it's reasonable.
I would also caution you about statements like that, because then
That's
you're
fine.
predetermined and biased, and you wouldn't be able to sit on the hearing, so careful.
Oh, after I hear the applicant.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
So, anyway, so take it or leave it, this is what the law says, these are the case laws that, explain it. I know it's a difficult position, because I do feel strongly that zoning regulations should not prevent, investment in your property. I agree with that.
They're detrimental.
Right, but it's
Right.
the zoning regulations that have
Charlie.
to change.
Well, no,
I agree with you 100%.
No, I mean, I get to say my piece. I have a neighbor who's a truck driver, who he drives a car carrier and has turned my residential neighborhood into a truck stop. He parks his rig in the street, he unloads the cars, he shifts their position in the carrier, he parks his rig in his yard. There's no zoning against that. My neighbor can turn a residential street into a truck stop, but this guy can't add 12 feet to his carport? Come on, it's zoning, something's,
Not
something.
talking about a specific
some-
application that's about to be before you. that is not-
Theoretically, add something to a carport.
Again, that's a zoning matter.
Yes.
Enforcement matter, but,
And there's no zoning against it. He can, I talked to zoning. He is allowed by zoning to turn my neighborhood into a truck stop.
No, he's not.
I could talk to Kyle,
He's-
I talked to Kyle personally.
Yeah, I don't think
Well,
so.
you're not allowed to park a business vehicle in residential areas.
Kyle told me specifically, there is nothing in
There's
zoning
nothing-
to prevent that.
Yes, there
I
is.
sat and had that conversation with him a month or so ago.
probably,
But
we'll
it
look at
pushes it
that
to the
separately.
point that it's a home occupation, zoning does not allow that large a vehicle to be parked in residential areas as a home occupation. So maybe the question was presented wrong, maybe the facts were presented wrong, maybe he's skirting the issue just enough that it's not a violation, but the intent was not to allow 45 gross ton vehicles to be parked.
And swap your load.
It happens everywhere.
All right,
All right,
Anyways,
my job was to just provide you the.
Right,
law,
provide
this
us
is
the information and
law,
law
this
and
is the case
whatever.
law, and,
Thank you.
and
thank
just
you.
remember
It
that.
was very informative.
Oh, and the other case that you got, that I included in there,
Stanford, whatever here, M. Cross
It's the law that
Stanford.
just came out, basically eliminating any statutes related to the location approval, so it is, all of those statutes have been repealed. You actually didn't even have to have a public hearing tonight, but I didn't get that confirmation until after we scheduled the public hearing, so the attorney just said, go ahead with it, and, but, basically, there are no criteria on which you have to evaluate the location approval, so if it's allowed in the zone, you get to say, well,
It's allowed
Mr.
in-
Geer,
it's
you're
allowed in the
approved.
zone.
So, it's
Actually,
kind of a
the only thing I
formality.
read in that was the fact that we had to approve it.
Yeah.
Or he couldn't get the permit.
Right, so I think the next step in the legislature is actually gonna just make that a power of the zoning official. Just hasn't, that part hasn't passed
So
yet.
they're
It's
gonna take
come
over
totally
and
out
do
of
away with
ZBA.
zoning boards of appeals.
Right, so unfortunately, right now, it still says you have to do it, but there are no criteria to evaluate, so it's
But,
a
all right, let me
sort of
ask you this.
strange formality.
Let me ask you this question, that Stanford ruling takes away the health and safety?
Yep, everything. There are no, absolutely no, there are no, criteria. It's a screw up. When they did this and this decision came out, at that point, they should have just taken it, the part that it has to go to ZBA out of there too, but they haven't, and they will, but they haven't done it yet.
So who considers health and safety issues and stuff like that for these locations?
If the zoning commission has allowed that use, and that this is the thing, if the zoning commission has, gone through the process of adopting regulations, which have public hearings, and people discuss various uses in the zones, and maybe regulations around them, then they've already made that determination that that use is appropriate in a zone. They already did it, they already considered the health and safety, they say the zoning commission was concerned about, car repair places being near schools, then in their supplemental regs, they're gonna write something about that. You know what I mean? So again, it's a power of planning and zoning to sort of decide that, when they decide what uses are appropriate in a zone. So
All
if
right.
they've done that, then,
I go to operate a service station where there's an empty void right now, okay? And planning and zoning has not taken into account that property is above and located next to, what's the word, watershed area.
They do consider
They
that,
did.
of course they do.
Huh?
We
Yeah.
did.
Okay, so that means this, when the guy has to put an application before his planning and zoning.
And notify
Okay.
the watershed.
And the
You know,
planning and
that-
zoning can turn around and tell him he has to do things to make sure the oil and everything else like that doesn't get into it.
Ground utilities will, yeah.
Well,
They have to comment and approve as well.
oh, okay, all right. You've answered my questions.
So I think
I wanna-
that's the thinking behind repealing the
So they don't
statutes
really
and-
have to do anything tonight, it's just.
No, you really don't, that's what I was gonna suggest,
Let them
perhaps
go.
you put him up first, so he can not have to sit here.
All right, thank you very much, Julie, I appreciate it.
Thank
All right, we're gonna open up the public hearing, and we're going to hear application, number 965, which is 7 Fairway Drive, Ledyard, Connecticut. Applicant Jacob Geer for a location approval for an auto dealer and repair facility in accordance with section 15.4. Joseph, would you please come up to the microphone and identify yourself for whoever is representing? Jacob, I'm sorry.
Yes, I'm Jacob Geer. Up to the microphone. Jacob Geer. I get off my site plan here for my shop. Does anybody have any questions about it?
It was approved in planning and zoning last.
Deb, do you have a copy of that in the file?
I have copy of it. It's not in that file, no.
You don't need
He's
it,
got
I
it,
just, in
yeah.
case
What?
you wanted to look at it, I asked him to bring it.
Okay. All right.
You have this
In,
one.
in accordance, well, that's a picture, right?
Yeah. It's just showing the location.
Right, do we have a copy of that,
Site plan.
site plan that he has in his hands? Okay, since you brought it to the commission, would you please give one to Deb?
Sure.
And is that one or copies?
This is just one, there's different pages here.
All right. If you give that to her, we can put that in the plan to say that he presented it, okay? Based on the latest information that we have received having to do with the Stanford case that was just,
Yeah,
Copies, yeah.
okay, yeah, the one Elm Crest Stanford LM plus against the zoning board of appeals. The decision is that the zoning board of appeals no longer has approval authorization for your application.
That's not true.
No, you have approval authorization, you just have no standards.
Basically.
To base
Okay,
it
no
on.
standards to base it on. So, why, yeah, okay.
Yeah, it's silly, but.
Go ahead.
Can we ask questions? Just a couple of curious questions.
Sure.
Even though there's no standards.
Yep, no standards.
When a non-operational vehicle was brought to your facility, proposed facility, will it unload on a public street or will it unload on the property?
Oh, it'll be on the property.
It'll be on site, right?
Right.
Okay. And that's in the record someplace as far as zoning is concerned? Or is that part of it?
Yeah, I have, traffic generation all written down.
Okay.
I think that might address
And
that.
it's buried in there, okay.
I think so.
And it's my understanding also that there would be no auto body painting.
That's right, no painting.
Okay, so we don't have to think about box of odors.
That's
or-
right,
or
mechanical repairs,
hazardous waste.
yeah, no paint, no putty.
Anybody else have any questions to ask of the gentleman? It's my understanding that Jacob Geer is going to be providing fauna, whatever, plants, flowers, and whatever to kind of keep his property away from everybody's sight, which will be an improvement over what's been there before.
That's right.
So that's
That's fabulous.
that's in his, yeah, that's good on his part. So, hearing no more questions, do I hear a motion?
Whoa, we have to close the public hearing first.
Oh, that's right,
Yeah,
yes, we do. All right,
I move to close the public hearing.
all right. Motion's been made to close the public hearing on application 965, 7 Fairway Drive, Ledyard, Connecticut. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Motion's been seconded. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay, it's unanimous. Thank you, Jacob.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you for your time.
Yes.
That was just a vote to close the public hearing, did you?
Right, that's all.
That's correct.
Did you, oh,
have
you have
to-
to do it later, yeah.
Specific, for that
Sorry.
specific application.
For that specific application.
You don't have to wait around.
You don't have to wait around. Appreciate it.
Unless you want to, you can enjoy our company.
Well, I could, I suppose I could. Alright, thank you, everybody.
Okay, now open. Okay, we're gonna open application, 964, 6 Ash Drive, Gale Ferry, Connecticut. Applicant, property owners John and Tamma Doucette for a 22-foot variance of the required 35-foot setback to expand the existing carport from 12 to 24 feet. Would, is John Doucette here?
Yep.
Okay, please identify yourself.
John Doucette, 6 Ash Drive,
All right,
Ledyard.
I'm Eric Goodless, I'm from Eric's Design Build. I'm here to be a moral support.
Yeah, you
Alrighty.
guys got me out of my comfort zone here.
okay. Zoning application is not in the CAM zone, CAM review is not required, CAM review is not included. It's not a reversal of the ZEO decision, it's a variance. He's asking for a variance, okay, variance of the following section of the zoning regulations 3.4A. Expand existing carport width from 12 feet to 24 feet. Same distance from street line as dwelling area homes predate zoning setbacks now required. No practical way to meet current setback requirements. Only affects homes predating current setbacks. How will the granting of this appeal affect the character of the neighborhood? Not at all. Many homes on the street and area have similar setbacks to my house as I've shown on the tax map attached. And it goes through all the procedures and requirements. He's been checked off. Okay. Example number 2 is the Town of Ledyard Property Summary Report for 6 Ash Drive. There's a picture of the house and all its assessments. Example number 3 is a property location map for 6 Ash Drive. Again, it shows you number of homes, bedrooms, and so forth. Example number 4 is a picture, overhead shot of 6 Ash Drive and all the other homes in the area. Well, good portions, it's got 6, 4, and a few across the street. Example number 5 is a map outline of 6 Ash Drive and Vinegar Hill Road and the homes in the general area. Application number 6 shows you the setbacks for 6 Ash Drive. Let's see, it's currently 22 feet back. Shows you where the well is, gives you the side yard setbacks, shows you where the septic system is and the current rear yard. Okay, that's all there. Number 7 is the assessor's map and neighborhood setback scale. So it shows you that homes vary from 24 feet all the way back to 45 feet. And 6 Ash Drive is 23. Number 4 Ash Drive is 12. Number 2 is 15. Okay, and the ones across the street are a lot larger, 45, 32. Okay, number 8 shows you a picture of what they intend on doing. Gives you the new elevation, the width, talks about the trusses and everything, existing front elevations. Number 9 is a letter to the abutting owners of Ash Drive from John Doucette. It says variance application. Dear neighbors, I am required by the zoning board of appeals to notify abutting property owners to my address at 6 Ash Drive in regard to an application to widen my existing carport from 12 feet to 24 feet. The homes in our area were most constructed prior to changes in the zoning regulations, which now require a 50-foot setback from the front street line. Most homes in our area do not meet the setback as shown on the attached map. This creates a hardship for residents here, as modification cannot be done without a variance. My application to expand my carport will not be detrimental to anyone's property values and will increase the value of my property. Please consider writing a letter of support which you can give me prior to the public hearing in October. Thank you, signed John Doucette, and it's got the certified mail receipts going to 14 Ash Drive, 53 Vinegar Hill, 4 Ash Drive. Okay. Then you've got exhibit number 10 is the public hearing notice. It was posted in the day on October 8th and October 15th. And then we have certified mail September 30th to John and Tamma Doucette, application, so forth and so on, telling them that they have to be here, and it's got the return receipt with it. Exhibit number 12 is a memorandum for the record of ZBA meeting. Staff comments. 6 Ash Drive is located in the R60 low-density residential district on a .51 acres, 22,216 square feet, with approximately 188 footage of frontage on Ash Drive. This site is developed with a single-family residence and some accessory structures, all non-conforming with respect to the required 35-foot front setback. The principal structure is approximately 13 feet from the front lot line. The applicant proposes to construct a 12-foot by 26-foot addition to the existing carport that is attached to the house. This addition is shown on site plan and elevations provided by the applicant. The applicant's claimed hardship is that the homes in the area predate the current setback requirements and that there is no practical way to meet current setback requirements. The law surrounding variance is very clear that if the claimed hardship affects all property in the general area, the matter can only be acted on legislatively, not administratively. That is the solution to amend the zoning regulations themselves to correct the issue, not to solve via variance. In fact, there is no possible way to claim that there is a valid hardship in this particular case, as the applicant himself stated that the hardship was not unique to his property, that in fact there were other homes on the street that were also non-conforming with respect to the front setback. The courts have decided in many cases that no hardship exists by reason of the size or shape of the lot, where all properties in the area are similar in size and shape, and where regulations affect all these similar properties in the same manner. The applicant must show that because of some unusual characteristic that is unique to his property, the literal enforcement of zoning regulations, in the case of this front setback requirement, would result in exceptional difficulty or unusual hardship. The denial of this variance would certainly not deny the applicant reasonable use of his land. Additionally, the application of zoning regulations to a property alone does not constitute a valid hardship and is therefore not a sufficient reason to grant a variance. I do agree that all the setback requirements for the homes in this predominantly half-acre lot neighborhood are unreasonable, as is the zoning regulations designation, which has a minimum lot size of 60,000 square feet and double the size and rear setbacks found in the R20 district, where minimum lot size is only 20,000 square feet. Interestingly, the front setback for all residential districts is the same, so the hardship caused by this particular front yard setback regulation does in fact affect all similarly undersized lots in every R40 and R60 district equally. I also believe zoning regulations should not be so restrictive that they prevent a homeowner from improving their home or property. There are several possible solutions to address the issue at hand. However, all fall under the jurisdiction of the Planning and Zoning Commission and not the ZBA. 3 actions that Planning and Zoning Commission could consider would prevent similar applications from coming before the ZBA. Rezone the neighborhood from R60 to R20 so that at least the rear and side yard setbacks would be reduced, providing a gradable buildable area on the parcel. Provide a specific exemption for undersized lots to allow them to utilize the setbacks that make more sense based on the size of the lot rather than the zone they are in. Allow the vertical and or horizontal expansion of a legally existing principal structure that is located within the required front setback, providing the existing building line is maintained. That regulation would look something like, for residents built prior to 1990 and located on legal lots of record that are non-conforming with respect to the front yard setback, the front yard setback shall be reduced to the actual distance between the front line and the existing principal structure, parentheses, residence. I will be recommending that the Planning and Zoning amend the regulations to include the above language, but unfortunately, the process to amend regulations can take time, so it will not help the current applicant. While I am sure there would be little objection to the proposed expansion, my job as staff is to explain the law with respect to variances and the possibility of appeal if the board does not adhere to the strict standards for granting a variance. You are, however, free to vote as you like and run the risk of appeal, just remembering though, and this is in bold letters, whether you vote to approve or deny the required variance, you must state for the record the reason for your decision and describe specifically the exceptional difficulty or unusual hardship or lack thereof on which your decision is based. And then it goes into some of the language that we can use for making the motion. And that's respectfully submitted by Juliet Hodge, our Planning and Zoning Director. All right.
I would have made it shorter if I knew you had to read it out loud.
Huh?
I would have made it shorter if I knew you had to read the whole thing out loud.
It's,
Sorry.
that's the way it goes. All right, Mr. Doucette.
Did you see the letter before this meeting?
What's that?
Had you seen this letter before this meeting?
What he just
read, yeah.
No.
No, okay.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to say that while most of the homes in this neighborhood do not meet the current setbacks, that does not preclude that other homes in the area have sufficient room where they could build a carport or a garage within the new setbacks. But in this particular parcel, because of where the septic is and because of the configuration of the lot, it would make, there's no practical other place to put the carport and indoor garage, because he and his wife like to come out and sit under it in the summer and enjoy the yard. And so while some of the other homes could have a carport or a garage built that would meet the current setbacks and regulations, this particular lot would not meet that. And so this is unique to that lot. It may also be unique to another lot or two there. But in this case, it is unique to this lot.
What if you move the carport back 13 feet from where you're proposing it right now? What's back there?
A septic system.
That's the septic
Yeah.
back there?
So the septic is right at the back
It's
line
right-
of the house.
It's right at the back of the house?
Yeah, basically it is, yeah. I think it's 10 feet off the back of that bump out.
The bump out, but if you move, what are you looking, you've got 40 feet is the side wall of the house, right?
Well, the front The front of the home is 40 feet.
I'm looking at this drawing right here. Your existing house, existing carport to be removed, and then you're showing your addition.
Correct,
I'm
yeah.
saying, if you shift it back 13 feet, you would be in compliance with zoning. You're saying the septic system is right here?
No, it starts 10 feet in back of this,
Well,
which the code allows.
theoretically, you've got room here, do you not?
I don't know that we could get a double carport in there.
I mean, I'm just asking a
Yeah.
question. So
I'm not sure.
that would get you around what you just heard here today, okay? Because right now, you're about ready to spend $560 for a no, potentially, depending on what comes out of this meeting, so. I'm just asking you guys a question. If that's viable, you are in compliance with zoning regulations.
Building wise and structural wise and stuff, it just makes sense to do what's provided and stuff.
I'm with you. It makes sense to follow the front plane of the house. It makes absolute sense.
Everybody here, I understand what everybody's saying here, but it just, from a structural and a building point of view, it's the logical thing to do. With the hypothetical stuff, yeah, we could move it back there, but there's a whole host of building issues
Yes.
that come into play there.
You have to redesign.
Yeah.
Do you have, that existing carport, does that have an entrance into your house?
Yes,
And that bump out in the back, is that actual part of the house, or is that
Yes.
just, okay. And you're, I see what you're getting at, Charlie, because you'd still have the entrance to the house would be under the carport.
It looks-
Carport's 26 feet long.
The roughly scaling, yeah, it looks like it.
And so if you just move it back 14 feet gives you 36 feet, which is, you're back from what you need to be. It's 30.
Would that make a crazy roof line?
that's exactly right.
Yeah, yeah.
That's
You
the
gotta
issue.
do a redesign, yes,
Well, I mean, the roof line on that bump out in the back is different than the home, so tying them together is going to be
Kind of, yeah.
unusual. Because it's a very shallow roof line, and the home roof line obviously comes up higher. So it's gonna be a weird kind of
but
setup.
I understand the pragmatic pragmatic side of your design, but right now, that does not constitute a hardship. That's the problem with what she just presented, is that according to state statutes and local zoning, too bad. That's what this little nice letter.
Until they change the zoning law for your neighborhood. She's saying you have to say no, so he's just trying to figure out another way. You would have an
I
inventive
understand.
roof line, but it could be pretty.
Your setback's only 35 feet, it's not 50.
What's that?
Your setback's only 35, not 50.
Correct.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
pulled that right out of the zoning book, but,
Yeah, that's 50 if it's off a state road, but you're off of Ash Drive, so
oh,
it's only 35. And it doesn't give you all the room
Yeah.
you need, but
Yeah, if you move back 13 feet, that gives you 35.
Yeah. But if you
13
was to-
13 and.
If it was to move it back,
22.
even with that bump out in the back, it gives you what you want, plus it keeps your door access from the carport underneath the carport, since your carport is 26 feet long. You're only moving it back 14 feet. All right. That's all, okay. You have any other, okay, and you're saying from the bump out back is your septic system?
Correct.
right.
All right, and moving the carport back to meet the bump out doesn't impact the septic system and whatever? You don't have any reason for variance on the side yard setbacks? You got plenty of room there? Anything else you would like to add to the application, Mr. Doucette? Or anything else you'd like to state in reference to the application?
Well, I'll bring up my point of view is I've been in this town all my life. And I just heard what this lady said and stuff like that, but it makes me wanna go and put a for sale sign on my house and get the hell out of here, all right? Kinda pissed off,
I have a couple of questions,
okay?
and they're very minor, and
Yeah.
more a curiosity issue than anything. But I took a look at Google Maps before I came to the hearing tonight, and it shows a couple of structures, and I also drove by, but it's pretty well screened, so I couldn't get a good look at it. But it looks like there's a hoop house and something else in the northeast corner of the property.
Yep,
And technically speaking, those are both in the front yard. And I was wondering what the history was of those two structures, and if they're permanently mounted or not. Are they on a permanent foundations, or if they're just
the hoop
anchored?
out is just one of them covering up my tractor. It's one of them pipe,
Okay.
it just, you know,
It's a
it's
portable
a
structure.
portable
But
structure.
there's two structures, there's two things there.
The
right?
shed's permanent there, it's on a slab and
Is-
stuff there.
Okay, so it's a permanent structure.
Yeah,
And the reason I bring this up is because it raises a yellow flag, because we're not supposed to have accessory structures in the front yard. But it's been a long time. You know, you didn't put those there yesterday, they've been there for a while, I
Yeah, the
assume.
house was built in 59.
1959, but the shed, do you happen to know if the shed or the, or I call it a hoop house, but the fabric covered
Yeah.
structure, do you know if that was installed, when that was installed about?
2000,
Okay,
back in 2000,
okay. So it's been there for a while.
yeah.
And the reason I mention it is, when I visualize your property, which is a nice piece of property, and I agree with you and everybody else
Yeah.
that what you want to do, we should allow somehow, all right?
Yeah.
I don't disagree with that. And Juliet's arguments are conflicting with that, which makes our job interesting. But in any case, when I look at your property and I vision the screening, all those plantings, which are very nice, if I visualize those as missing, then that hoop house and the shed border on being eyesores in the front yard. And if you expand the carport to the left, the total percentage of stuff that's parallel to the roadway starts to become a little excessive for a traditional building lot. And it would be helpful if that hoop house and that shed could be moved so that it was, technically speaking, it should be in the rear yard. But it can be in the side yard if there's enough space. And you do have enough space to satisfy the side yard setback requirements. But it's just an observation that it's too much in the front yard already. And what you're asking for is, technically speaking, more stuff in the setback. Just a thought. But would that be a huge job to move those
To
two
move
items?
the hoop, no.
Well, how
But
about,
the shed and stuff like that, personally, I'm not gonna do that.
okay, well, that's on a permanent foundation, so, and if it's been there for, if it's on a permanent foundation, it's been there for more than
Yeah.
3 years, which is why I asked the question, it's protected.
Yeah,
Okay, so, but the hoop house could be moved, right?
yes, yeah.
Okay, anybody else with any other questions? Okay, then I'm going to close the public hearing for application 964 for setback on 6 Ash Drive. All right,
Thank
Thank
you
you.
for your consideration.
Yeah.
okay, you guys are welcome to stay.
Because they'll act on it now.
What's that?
They're gonna act on it tonight.
Okay,
Yeah, you might wanna stay and listen.
all right,
yeah.
sure.
Okay, so we adjourn the public hearing at 7:20. I want to open up the regular hearing, regular ZBA meeting at 7:20. Can I have a roll call, please?
Charles Preby?
Here.
John Proctor?
Here.
Sharon Peeler?
Here,
Marie Pedro?
Here.
Eric Treaster?
Here.
Okay, Emery Pedro is a voting member. The application, the regular meeting's open. We will discuss application 965. Do I hear a motion of approval for application 965?
I move to approve application number 965 of applicant and property owner Jacob Geer for location approval pursuant to section 14-54 of the Connecticut General Statutes to allow the operation of automotive dealer and repair facility at 7 Fairway Drive, Ledyard, Connecticut, with a finding that the subject property is suitable for the business intended.
Do I hear a second?
I'll second.
Okay. Is there any discussion?
I think it is a fabulous location for such a use, and I'm all in favor of it.
Anybody else? No? No, okay. Motion's been made and seconded. Discussion's been had. All those in favor of approval of application 965, which will be the last time we have to approve one of these things,
Hopefully.
Hopefully.
please say, let's do a roll call and get the approval.
Charles Freeby,
Aye.
John Proctor,
Aye.
Sharon Peeler,
Aye.
Marie Pedro,
Aye.
Eric Treaster.
Yes.
Okay, application 965 for Fairway, 7 Fairway Drive, auto body dealer and repair facility has been approved. Now, I will accept the motion to approve application 964, 6 Ash Drive, for a 22-foot variance of the required 35-foot setback to expand the carport from 12 feet to 24 feet. Do I-
Mr. Chairman, before we make that motion, let me suggest that we have a discussion on it first to tailor that motion.
You can't have a discussion on the application until you make a motion. That's the rules. You have to have a motion, and then we can discuss everything we want.
I move to approve.
Okay, a motion's been made to approve the application for a 22-foot setback of required 35-foot setback on 6 Ash Drive. Do I hear a second?
I'll second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Do I hear a discussion? Eric?
I get stuck with that because I made the motion.
No,
No.
because you're the one that said you want to have the discussion.
You're the one you're the one that's gonna come up with a reasonable, reason.
This is one of those sad situations. I had, my overwhelming preference is that the applicant has spent his $560 on a reg change, which would, actually probably would have been accepted at no charge because it would be applicable to multiple lots, multiple areas of town. But in any case, just the way it is what it is. I have to agree with Juliet that technically speaking, it is not a hardship as hardship is defined by statute and by case law.
And I understand the strict interpretation of state statute, I agree with that, but the state statute also gave this board by majority a vote to oversee that. And then in the event that somebody in this community wishes to make another, counter lawsuit to overturn our vote of approval, then they have the right to do so. That's how I've been interpreting the law. I mean, all we're doing here is just trying to give somebody a reasonable opportunity to improve their property, and then in turn the town. That's all this is. And if the state statutes and local zoning can't see that, then that's the fault with it.
Okay, I move to amend the motion.
Okay, if you want to amend the motion, how would you like to amend it?
I make a motion to grant the variance as requested in application number 964 at 6 Ash Drive, Gales Ferry, Connecticut, to reduce the required front yard setback from 35 feet per zoning regulation section 3.4 area and bulk schedule requirements to 13 feet to allow for a 12-foot by 26-foot expansion of the existing carport proposed to be located a distance of 13 feet to the front property line. The findings for the granting of the variance are the unique conditions and circumstances associated with this request are not the result of actions of the applicant property owners taken subsequent to the adoption of the Ledyard zoning regulations, and the variance would be in harmony with the general intent and purpose of the regulations and would conserve the public health, safety, convenience, welfare, and property values. And The exceptional difficulty or unusual hardship on which this decision is based is that the failure to approve this application will result in an unnecessary restriction in the ability of the homeowners to enjoy the peaceful use of their property.
I second that
Wow, well said.
Okay? No, we have, the application has been, the motion has been modified as stated. Any other discussion on this? Okay, I agree. And I will forward to the planning and zoning director and to the zoning enforcement officer that they take the necessary action to provide the zoning commission with the necessary wording that we would like to see provided to grant relief to the members of the town based on this problem. Okay? Motion's been made, it's been seconded, it's been revised, and that's been approved. It's time for a vote. Would you two please do a roll call?
Charles Preby,
I vote yes.
John Proctor,
Yes.
Sharon Peeler,
As much as I hate it, I have to vote no. The state has taken my vote away.
Marie Pedro,
Yes.
Eric Treister.
You don't make this easy, do you? Yes.
Okay, motion's been passed. Application 964 has been approved, and we will forward the information to the Director of Planning and Development, and to the Zoning Commission.
And the vote was 4-1, is that correct?
Yes, it is. The vote was 4-1. And the vote was taken and based on majority of the fact that residents built prior to 1990 and located on legal lots of record that are non-conforming with respect to the front yard setback. We have decided the front yard setback shall be reduced to the actual distance between the front line and the existing principal structure. That was the reason for our approval based on,
I would just like some support when I do bring that forward. I picked 1990 arbitrarily too.
Our regulations were adopted in 1963.
Yeah, I know, I was just,
Okay.
I didn't know if you wanted to go
And the
over
house
that.
was built in 1959.
I know.
so that application is closed. Mr. Doucette,
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Appreciate it.
to all the board members, this was a very difficult one to play games with. I spent some time with Juliet and with Mike over there. We were discussing this before we ever got here. On how to, not this application, we're talking about the rules and regulations on how to change them. It is a sticky situation. My house was built in 1957, and I could not even meet a 13-foot setback on some of my areas from where my wife wants to expand our dining room and so forth. So I'm interested in seeing some changes made that will allow some of the older homes that we have the freedom to be able to make some minor changes and expansions. It can be rather difficult.
I lived in a subdivision like this that was created before subdivision rules in Stonington. The same thing happened to me. I didn't get any relief from that. And you can't, these are 60s houses that we want to make modern. We want to bring them up to the, this century. And so I get it. I mean, obviously we want to be able to give these variances, but they are improper, and I am all for changing the regulations to deal with situations like that, because that's the proper way to do it. Then nobody has to spend $560 to come in. They can just build their addition. And so we'll get it done. It's just, I can't get it done quickly.
I understand that.
I
You
would
couldn't
support
get it
you
done by
fully on that. I just think that it's wrong to even have these rules such that the zoning board of appeals is useless.
Yeah.
Well-
Well, you're not. I mean, there are circumstances
Not
that.
really.
Well, there are some.
No, we can
It's
grant
just
variances
rare.
that will make things less non-conforming.
Yeah, that too. So there's,
And that's not what I was hearing.
No, we can.
I was hearing we really can't grant variances unless it's a true hardship.
there are other circumstances. I didn't
We
get to
are
all of
allowed to
them.
grant variances to make something less non-conforming, still non-conforming.
I would ask that all 5 of you show up in front of planning and zoning when this comes up.
Because I'm gonna need
Because we
it.
just
Can
changed
we
the
get
regs,
notice?
And one of the things we tried to do at the behest of Vinnie was fix the front yard setbacks. Because everything that comes to you is a front yard setback. So we were gonna fix setbacks. We ran into a hailstorm trying to fix setbacks, because you can't lower the front yard setback. What if they wanna expand the street? If they wanna expand the street, that's eminent domain. That's how they got John's property, and I doubt that's gonna carry. And if it does, it's for the public good, and we can't block that. But show up, support the change, because it's gonna take public input to make that change. Because there'll be a lot of pressure the other way to not make that change.
Tell us when,
Please send us notice.
tell us when, we'll go.
I will,
We wanted
because
to
once
do
you
garage
see
on
a
my house and we
repeat,
couldn't.
a repeat variance, then that's the signal to me that, okay, there's a
That's-
regulation problem.
Absolutely.
That's how we got the, mobile home variance changed. Because people were coming in here needing the
Right.
variance because they were taking a 1950s model, they wanted to get rid of it and put in a 1980s model, and they said, no, you can't, it's expanding a non-conforming use,
Right,
you know?
right, so.
There are some things that you have to do. Nobody's taking my property, that's besides the point. It's just, I understand where they're coming from, okay? And like they say.
Nobody's saying that this wasn't the right thing to do. It's just, you know, now we'll
Now
post
he
it
wants
in the
support when
paper.
it comes time to
We'll
change
wait
the rules.
14 days to make sure nobody complains, and it stands. But on a go-forward basis, things need to be fixed. What else in the regs can't be done, and we would, you know, they're gonna come, somebody's gonna come for a variance and say, my hardship is zoning won't let me do what I want to. Let's go fix zoning.
Zoning.
Well, I'll
And
put it
it's
this
cheaper.
way, the only one that I can see that would be that's really the true hardship is the front yard setback, because the homes were built on those roads, and those roads exist today from when they,
The
huh?
only lot that pre-exists that I would say would deserve a variance is a lot that isn't wide enough that when you put all the setbacks in, you get a 10-foot strip 20 feet long. Now, how are you gonna build on that?
Well,
And
That's a true
I cover
hardship.
that exact thing in that memo too, because it's not a total takings, it's a almost total takings, and that counts
The
too.
rules say if you've got a house on the property, there's a valid use on the property. That use has been there since 1959,
It is a reasonable use.
Yeah,
that
do you remember that?
granting a variance to expand that use is not required, and it's not a
It's not
taking
a
or
hardship.
denial. That's law. Now, whether we agree or not is another matter.
The house on Vinegar Hill,
Yes,
the one that guy's got the eagle in the tree,
yeah.
how far is his front steps from the road?
75 feet from the center line of the road.
No, it's not. Ain't no 75 feet. That guy's front step is, that's the kind of thing I'm talking about. That setback, okay, from the front of the house to that, that house was built with that road like that,
Okay,
okay? That's where we have to,
so if the steps fail, the staff would approve an application to restore the steps, not infringing any further, not making it more non-conforming, but we wouldn't allow them to put a portico on the front of the house to protect them from rain that went up and out, because that would be expanding that non-conformity.
right, but you
So they
look,
could come to you, and their only hardship is I might get wet, And the hardship is, the zoning regs won't let me do what's the right thing for me to do.
What I'm getting at, that guy's steps is 2 slabs of stone. The requirements today is that he has to have a proper porch, okay? Which would automatically expand into the front yard setback.
But he can't do that because zoning regs don't allow it, so let's go fix the zoning regs.
That's what I'm getting at. Yeah, it's that kind of thing that we have to look at,
Yeah,
like you're stating.
There's another way to do it where you're saying in particular neighborhoods that it's, if everybody's sort of within the setbacks but slightly different, like your neighborhood in particular, that sometimes you say, okay, we take the average setback of the 2 houses next to you, whatever that is becomes the new setback for your zone. So you can do it so it's more specific to one zone, or you could do it for the whole neighborhood. I like to just do it for the whole neighborhood because I think it's just
Yeah.
easier and cleaner, but,
It-
there's a
that-
lot of ways to solve what
Right.
you're saying, like in a village district, you want them to maintain that setback. It's gonna look stupid if you have one house up front and now everybody else has to be 75 feet back. Well, that's kinda ridiculous too, so,
It's just an
have to
example,
look
like
at-
his was built in the 50s, like mine was built in the
Right.
50s. It was built that way, nobody stopped anything. So his setback should be where the house is from the road.
Right.
You can't build any closer than that anywhere on your property.
right, and they should have, most towns have something that exempts them in their regulations. Almost every, but you don't, and so I just have to get it in there, that's
Yeah,
all.
okay. Just let us know when okay? Hopefully I can make it. If you give me enough time, I can take the time off, but,
And you can write a letter too, and stuff like that.
yeah. All right, so,
I told you not to.
Thank you very much.
thank you, guys.
Good luck.
All righty, let me,
I was good for a while.
okay. Approval of the zoning board of appeals, public hearing and regular meeting, 16 June 2021. Do I hear an approval?
I move to approve the minutes.
A second.
The motion's been made to approve and seconded. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay, unanimous, it passed. Any correspondence?
No, none.
Okay, any old business?
No.
All right, new business, yep,
Oh, I'm sorry, new business. Go ahead.
yes, new business. We have to have a business meeting. Would you like to do it via Zoom, or do you want to come in here?
Oh, you're talking about outside of our regular zoning meeting?
But we have to have a regular zoning business meeting,
Okay.
okay? This is the one to approve our budget and the days we're gonna meet and all
Oh,
that kind of
and
stuff.
re-elect, whatever, chair,
Right.
all that. Don't we always do that in December?
Well, we have, but do you wanna do it in person, or you wanna do it by
Oh,
Zoom?
Oh, either one's fine.
Yeah, if you do it Zoom, I can do next week, next month, whenever you
Well,
want.
I think we're gonna put it off till November, till December,
Okay.
okay? I will if
Yeah, I mean,
the
if-
weather is bad, I will notify you and we'll do it by Zoom.
And if COVID stays like, it has been, then, yeah, I've got no problem meeting in
Yeah.
person.
I have no problems either. I'm vaccinated and I ain't getting sick.
I've had 3 too.
I only have 2.
Oh, for you.
I don't need 3. 2's enough for me, baby.
You're old, you can have the 3rd.
No, I ain't getting no more. I had a doctor try and tell me he could get rid of an allergy I have by taking a shot once a month for the next 5 years, and I told him to kiss it.
Let's adjourn so we can tell Ted.
Yes, let's adjourn.
Oh,
Oh,
no.
new business, yes.
I do want to say something before we adjourn. Actually, no, we don't meet every month, so these are rare occasions, and this is our first time that we've met in person for a long time. I just wanted to give my opinion that I think our town is exceedingly fortunate that we have Juliet Hodge as our land use and our town planner. I think she's doing a superb job. She's working her tail end off. She gives excellent advice, and I think we should express our appreciation that she's on board with our town. So I just wanted to say that.
Thanks, Eric.
Okay,
That's nice.
Welcome.
Thank you.
welcome. Any other I have one announcement. I would appreciate you talking to your friends and neighbors and whatever. We need a couple of more board members, alternates. Okay? We are unfortunately an aging group.
No.
We need to get some younger bodies in here.
I think he should speak for himself.
We got
Yeah.
two younger bodies over there, one old
These
younger
guys
body
are
over
babies
here.
over there.
Now, they did, when they did the last charter revision, they made your appointment 6 years.
Yes.
Um, Hopefully that's not hindering people, but tell them, if something arises in the middle of their appointment,
you
they are
just
free
resign.
to resign.
Yeah.
No, but we need some alternates to allow for those of us that do wind up with problems and children that have to be taken care of and so forth and so on, to have enough members for a board meeting.
Did Rich step off?
No, he's
He's just absent today.
he's
Okay.
just absent
All
today.
right.
Okay?
And also, when you do your business meeting, you also have to consider the training, because there's a new statute that came out that says you all have to be trained for 2 hours every 2 years.
I thought it
So-
was 4 hours a year.
But,
No, it's definitely every, for
we
over
could-
2 years, but it could be
there's a
4
couple of
hours.
things we've done in the past that would meet that. One is everybody that went to this year's law seminar,
Yeah, that should do it.
that counts just for this year. Unfortunately, it was 8 hours, it's only for this year.
Oh,
I didn't go.
Todd
yeah, it was
and-
Zoom, we had a Zoom. We
I
had the
didn't go.
books.
But we could also, we could have somebody come in here and give you like a
I didn't go.
training.
I
Yes.
know you have to do
You
it.
kind of clear.
You're
had
talking,
online
you're talking about the one
courses.
down in, that's been down in Middletown.
Yeah, the one we've
Right,
been,
and
Yeah,
we
that was-
just
it was-
had it and we Zoomed.
It was
and
Zoom in
had the book.
March or whatever, yeah,
The
yeah.
advanced land use course has been meeting, and they may be meeting again. That was at, I don't remember which, Central Connecticut University, I think. And the guy who sends out the quarterly newsletter, be happy to come train.
Yeah, so they could come
And
in.
our land use attorney would be happy to come and, pick a topic that you would like him to talk about, and we'll invite him down. He's offered in the past.
So it might be easier to have them come here and you're all here and you can just do it an hour at a clip and, because it's over, it's not a big deal.
well, most of us have been to the land use one, that big all-day
Well,
thing.
Yeah.
things change. How many know what the McKinsey decision said, what that really means to planning and zoning, land use, and ZBA specifically? Who understands the Verillo decision and what that did to, that laid out
That was huge.
what ZBAs are allowed to do. Who understands it? I've read it many times, I don't understand it.
If-
I don't
if
even know the
that
two
is-
names you're talking about.
Maybe
That is
that's
the
one we
best
should try and
case
have
to
somebody
read,
come here to
is
teach us.
Verillo. It explains it's
clear.
it's very lengthy, but it's crystal clear on what you can do and what you can't do.
So you have to have 2 hours a year?
No, it's 2 hours over the course of 2 years or 4 hours over 2 years, I
It's in
can't
the
remember.
statute. It's in-
It just changed.
Yeah.
But it doesn't
It's
become
effective
effective until
October
June
1st.
Yeah, we have a ways,
So all
but
of our
if for
other
next year's
seminars don't
budget,
count.
if you all
Well,
wanted to go to that
interesting.
law thing, you should put in for it.
Yeah, but if you could have them come and talk to us for that,
Yeah.
that'd be nice.
Well, the law seminar is in odd years, so we did it this year. I don't think they'll do it next year.
No,
It'll be-
right.
But it'll still be
Yeah, but
within that
I
budget.
agree with you, I think maybe having somebody come and talk to us about Verillo, teach us about that would probably be the best use.
Who understands affordable housing? Housing and the changes to section 8.2, the enabling statute, are significant, what they did to achieve more housing that's affordable to a workforce.
Yeah, but that's not necessarily the ZBA, that's the planning and
It's
zoning.
But it's land
It's land
use.
use and it counts.
It's land use. And the more you understand about land use, the more help you are to Juliet as we try and navigate this in the town of Ledyard.
You can go over like nonconformities and, some of the trickier ones that you do run up
Somebody
against. so.
wants to put a double wide trailer in the backyard, they're quoting an enabling statute saying it allows me to do that. Does it?
Yep.
I tell them no, and they come to you to appeal the CEO's decision.
You're gonna have to.
You are
learn.
now doing a de novo review of my decision. You're starting from a blank sheet of paper. What do you put on it? And how do you find out? So all those things are germane. You can say, it's not us. Yeah, it could be.
Well, I was talking about building affordable housing.
Well, but the first thing you gotta do is permit it. Somebody's gotta sign a permit. I sign it, somebody complains.
Yeah, but
challenges my
affordable
decision.
housing has gotta go through the,
I say I'm gonna put this in the backyard at 6 Huntington, is that the next door one?
That's a good place, that's a good place, that's far enough away.
Far enough
I can
away.
live it.
Or
but isn't,
150 Pumpkin Hill, the guy who does the Airbnb.
building affordable housing is not our purview, that's planning and zoning.
But it could end up in front of you if the
If-
CEO makes a decision that somebody doesn't like. And
Yeah, either way,
your review
either way.
becomes de novo. Now,
But
you
how
have a
does
bunch
this,
of
wait a minute,
experts.
how does the ZEO get involved with planning and zoning when it's you're building a building?
Guy comes in with a permit to build something. And it
It's a
meets the
zoning permit.
regs, and it's residential, it does not have to go to the planning and zoning commission. Your ZEO can approve that.
Especially
For affordable housing?
Not for housing.
Oh,
No, affordable housing is a whole different animal.
Yeah, that's what I'm-
Yes, that gets
yeah,
appealed
okay.
to the courts.
It's housing, and we're looking under 8.
Some other statutes have changed
30
too.
alpha, I think.
It's new.
It's new, but it could be contentious, because it's new, and when we tried to change regs to allow a lot of that stuff, we had a line out the door to stand at that podium and tell us we were nuts and we couldn't do it. Now the state says, if you don't do it by this date, we've already done it for you, and you can use our rules. So,
Well-
it's coming.
However, we can opt out, which I hope
I
we
don't
do.
see the willingness to do that.
Somebody, who makes that decision?
Planning and zoning.
I know,
Is that on the agenda for discussion?
yeah, it was.
Well, I don't know, it will be.
There was no.
We still have a little time.
Yeah. You do announcements still, or are you done?
no, we can, what do you got?
The appeal of a CEO's decision,
What?
It'll go away, don't worry.
it'll go away. I've taken action to make it a moot point, but you have a letter to the ZBA appealing my decision with regards to the liquor store on Route 12. I sent a letter to the Liquor Control Commission saying that's not permitted in that zone.
Liquor store.
The one that they're trying to do with the
Package
dog
store.
park?
No.
Next door.
Next door, just.
Next door,
just
the old
south.
veterinary hospital.
Just south.
They want to put in a packaged liquor store
Oh,
Okay.
on 12.
They're
So
moving.
I-
the
oh,
one from
oh,
here.
oh, that one down there, okay, I know what
I
the
sent a
vet, yeah.
letter to the Liquor Control Commission rescinding Kyle's signature saying it was permitted by zoning. Then, after I did that, I sat down with Director of Land Use and said, man, am I right? And we went back to 1963 and looked at all the regs, and we decided that our use table doesn't have a use for alcohol. It has a commodity called alcoholic liquor, but there is no use other than restaurants and taverns. So this would fall under retail establishment, which was how they approved it. And so then I sent a second letter almost immediately before the date of the 14th for anybody that has a comment, rescinding of the signature. So I made my first decision moot, but meantime, the attorney rightfully for the applicant filed an appeal to make sure he's got a
Within the 15
stick
days.
in the ground. So he did that within the time. I got my copy, your copy is with Deb, I think, on the desk. And the other thing I think we need to do is change our fee schedule. People shouldn't have to pay $560 to appeal a ZEO decision, and there is case law now that says
So you can't charge them,
Pardon?
that is wrong, just take it out,
It's in our-
that's illegal,
Yeah,
so.
it's illegal.
What?
You don't charge,
We can't charge somebody to appeal a ZEO decision.
that's free.
But our fee table in the ordinance says that, so. I'll-
Juliet, where is that document?
Oh, everywhere, I'll find it and send it to you.
But
Yeah.
There's case law now, yeah.
Well, our,
maybe-
our fee table is based more on the cost of, for,
Can't charge fees,
No.
I'm not arguing that.
yeah.
But I'm saying, our,
And
our
I'll-
fee
I'll-
table is based on the
What's today,
newspapers.
Wednesday, I'll take an action to talk to Roxanne.
So what
tomorrow.
you're saying is that you have decided that a liquor store in that old veterinary place down there is legal?
I reviewed the regs, and it falls under retail sales, and it would be legal. So I told them that the signature that they got originally stands. I think I was able to withdraw my objection prior to the end date on the placard. So therefore, there shouldn't be any municipal estoppel type stuff. We didn't infringe on his ability to get a permit because the objection was withdrawn prior to the end date for objecting, I think.
Or appeal it.
All
But he
right,
did file an appeal,
That was just to protect his interest.
absolutely. And
how about
talked
you,
to him, I talked to Carl.
how about you doing me and us a favor and talk to our land use lawyer and
Yeah.
see how much time he would need to teach us about those two names you threw out there.
I think the first thing you ought to have legal presentation on is Barillo, beyond a doubt.
Yeah.
Do you have copyright to this, to the rural decision like you had this one?
I can send you it, I just wrote all over mine, so I'll print you a clean one.
I've got one I can give Deb tomorrow.
Yeah.
She can send it.
and she can
It's
send it out.
excellent, whoever that judge was that wrote it is
And it's understandable, right?
very,
Well, yeah.
I mean, there's legalese in it, but take the paper that I gave you,
But this is-
go along with it.
How much
This is
longer?
garbage.
That one, you
That one,
go
just look at the
through
last
and all
paragraph.
that says is, you dummies, the statute you were changing no longer existed at the time.
Yeah, so you can't change it.
Right,
So therefore, throw it all out. And like,
You can't change a law that no longer exists. That's
Exactly.
what I'm saying.
and it took the court a long, I mean, John, we've been talking about how to do approvals of gas stations and auto repair, and is it planning and zoning, is it ZBA, what year is it, is the moon up, is the moon down?
Yeah,
So they're gonna do away with that, and just say, hey, why doesn't staff or the planning and zoning commission, when they approve the site plan, take care of it? Because they took away the criteria.
but my request is that you talk to our town attorney, see how much time he would need to train us or discuss with us so we understand the one you just talked about and the other one that you mentioned.
I'd say it's probably 2 hours if you do your homework.
yeah, and you guys have the book that they give out? Because
No,
I'll make you a copy of the chapter on ZBA
we don't have a
and
new
your
one.
powers, so.
I don't have,
that-
yeah,
that
I don't
was-
have this.
None of us have the new one.
I
That
think
would
I
change.
also
It came out
have
in
to,
March.
they sent
That's this
out,
one, right? Oh, yeah, March 23rd, 2019.
Yeah, but I want the book,
That's old.
yeah.
That's all.
That's old. 2019 is old.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
still
Yeah, the new
decent
one.
though, that section still talks about hardships perfectly, it's fine, but,
Yeah, but I don't even have that one.
okay. I do have a version that I can make copies, and I'm sure I have my 2021 somewhere, but.
So do me a
I've had to
favor
Look at everything online.
Yeah,
and also ask him if he'll do it on a Saturday. Because most of us work during the week, and a Saturday would be better for all of us to get together.
that could be harder, but nothing wrong with asking.
I mean, a
And I can
weeknight
always-
is possible, but I don't wanna be out really late, cause I
Well,
know some of us have to be up
I
in
mean,
Antwerp
We
really
could also do
early.
it by Zoom, but
Yeah, I don't like that
Better
Zoom
to do
stuff.
it in person.
Yeah.
Because this is pretty important.
And that way I can cajole somebody into providing lunch.
can I move to adjourn? Or you gonna have to-
Motion's been made to move to adjourn. All in favor, say aye. Meeting's adjourned.
And also, we have to say goodbye to a
8:50.
certain pretty little lady over here that's retiring.
What?
Yes, she
We
told
are
me.
not having her next time.
Yeah, she
Yeah,
told me
that's